Hey guys, I got a question or a comment on a video that the person raised a really good point, and I wanted to take a moment to deep dive into this and to address it because they make some valid points, but it shows a gauge of different progression through the healing process on this. But before we jump into that, I'm Duane, and if you want to get your life back, heal from emotional abuse, rebuild the relationship with yourself and your kids, start right now by hitting the subscribe button, clicking the bell notification so you don't miss a thing. Okay, so this was in a reference to the video I did the other day called What to Fight For and Picking Your Battles. And what this person said is, I feel like you're taking responsibility for your ex's misbehavior. Yes, your assertion of your rights to a child support modification triggered her manipulations. And I agree that the correspondence here probably could have benefited from taking a step back and considering the bigger picture. I love how he's telling me what I normally say back to me, and I should have listened to that. So I like that. But I suspect that if it weren't the case, it would have been something else. The responsibility for this action is on her, not you. Yes, it may be predictable that she would respond in this way, but to refrain from asserting your rights for what you're entitled to out of fear on how the ex will react keeps us in that prison and most literally rewards her misbehavior. Is it worth risking this over who pays for school lunch? Maybe not. But for the child support each month, it seems refraining from asserting our rights out of fear for how the ex will respond keeps everyone at her whims. Okay, here's the thing with this. And thank you for that comment. That was, I thank you. It was a good comment. And what I will say on this is what this person is saying is exactly the way I felt 5-6 years ago. I was so angry and so frustrated at everything that the ex was doing and everything that she was getting away with, that if I could have figured out how to save a dime, well, okay, not a dime, but I mean, if there was a few $100s on the table, I would have fought tooth and nail to get it. And I did fight on a lot of different things. Here's the difference with this. First, I would say in the beginning stages, you have to fight because, like I was saying in some past videos, you have to go through the process to get to the point to where you emotionally can let some things go. And the way that worked for me is I kept fighting things and I kept getting basically a big finger, boop, poked in my eye from family court, from Department of Child Support Services, from child therapists, you name it. It seemed like I was just beating my head against the wall. Now, if you're able to fight back and you're able to get some victories, that's a different story, right? And if you can get some victories early on, it does really help because it sets a baseline on what your ex knows they can get away with and what they can't, and what you'll be able to fight and potentially win. The problem is that if you're fighting and you're constantly losing or it's a draw, what it ends up doing is that ends up making things worse. That is what keeps the narcissistic person ramping it up because they feel emboldened. They feel like they've been able to beat you in the system, get things working correctly, or not working correctly, but get things to go into their favor. And you're the one who's always basically getting hit down and dealing with a lot of stress. Keep in mind, typically they don't care about the real victory. It's about having you on the hook, bringing you to the table to continue to fight, and knowing that they're screwing with your emotions. It took me a long time to get to where I am now. And this is one of those things that's really, it's an interesting shift because like I said, what this person said, that was my mantra. And I got into arguments let me back up. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine at work who was overpaying his ex. He had full custody. The custody order said that it was 50-50. His ex-wife wasn't seeing the kids at all. And I'm like, dude, you're paying too much. You should go back. That's not right. You could be paying less. And he said to me at the time, and I didn't get it, he said, you know what? I'm paying for the peace. I know that if I go back to court and I try to adjust child support, the ex is going to turn around and say that she wants more. And this is what they always do, she wants her custody, she wants more custody, and it turns into a major catastrophe. Here's the thing. At that time, when he said that to me, when that guy said that to me, that was about it might even be 7 years ago now. When he said that to me, I could not comprehend what he meant. I'm like, you're insane. How, that evil person doesn't deserve a freaking dime. They're not stepping up to the table. They're not being a real parent. They're neglecting the kids. They should pay, right? And this is a common thread that a lot of people, I see this in comments, I see this in emails that I get. I even see this with some of the coaching calls that I take, that I have. It's just, there's this reoccurring theme. And I completely get it. It's completely understandable. When you are in the middle of all this and you are so angry and frustrated at what your ex is doing and what they're getting away with or what they're not doing, letting things go feels like you're letting them win. You're giving them a pass. You're cowering in fear at what's going to happen next. And if that's what the message that came across in that other video, and I'll put a link up in the top, so if you haven't seen it, you can check it out. It's not what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say, and this is very similar to what that individual said to me 6-7 years ago, is his life was peaceful. The life with his boys was peaceful. He looked at it as in, yes, I might be able to get a few $100s, back in child support or alimony or whatever. I mean, at one point she was even seeing somebody. I'm like, man, you can get rid of the alimony if you do that. I was just really angry. But he was looking at it as his life was stable. The life with his boys was stable. They were doing pretty good in school. Everything was okay. The ex wasn't rocking the boat. She was just staying away, not really interacting. And he looked at it that he was paying that for the peace. I now understand what he meant. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. And in that other video, I was talking about how I had, poke the bear, so to speak, to say, hey, let's deal with this. And I think I would probably win. I will say that there's always this situation where it does seem that every time I think I understand something, there's always a caveat that says, if your name is Duane and you have a YouTube channel, then this is null and void and you automatically lose. It really seems that way. So, and that's really my point on this, is you have to look at the cost of it. This guy on this comment is absolutely right. Is absolutely right. Has every reason to fight back on it. Let me see what he was saying. It seems that refraining from asserting our rights out of fear for how our ex will respond keeps everyone at her whim. The problem is, you have to look at what is it worth to you. And 5 or 6 years ago, I would have went to war. I would have absolutely done this. If Child Support Services would have told me, Department of Child Support Services would have told me the first couple of years that they would impute her wages, I absolutely would have done it. I was so angry and irritated and PO'd about everything that was happening that I absolutely would have done it. Obviously, today, I haven't. They told me a couple of years ago, and I've just been kind of waiting to see what would happen. Initially, the reason I was waiting is they're like, well, you can ask for a modification every, I think, 6 months or every year. And I was like, well, she might get a job, and then I'd have to go back. So I'll just wait and see what happens. And I just kept waiting and waiting. And what happened is my life started getting more and more stable. I started feeling more and more relaxed. And in my mind, I'm like, it's not worth it. I'm not scared of her whim. I'm not scared of that. But I'm like, do I really want to introduce that into my life? Here's the caveat. If she started poking me in the eye and started making my life a living hell, instead of being in this stalemate, I'd fight. I'm not going to not fight. I mean, if she called me today and said, well, I want more money, I know, let me caveat, I know from looking at it that if we went to court, I'm like 80% sure there would be a reduction. Now that she's working, I'm probably 90% sure there would be a reduction. So if I have to go that way, that's fine. Now, I don't know what other nuances can come up. Like I said, if it's like there's a caveat that says, if you look like this guy, you automatically lose. It almost seems like that sometimes in the statutes and stuff. But I mean, realistically, if I needed to fight, I would go. Let me say this. If I knew that if we keyed in the new numbers and we went back to court, they would increase it. And if she came to me and said, I want $300 more in child support, and I knew that it would be $300 more, I think I'd just agree to it. I mean, what's the point? What's the point of dragging me back down into the pit of hell on something I know that's inevitable just to fight? I mean, I guess I could say no just to make her fight for it. But I think it depends on where you're at emotionally. I mean, I guess if I could do that and I could put a roadblock into it and it didn't affect me emotionally at all, okay, then maybe it would be worth it. But to me, it's not worth it to risk my sanity and stability for anything like that, for any small thing. And what I will tell you, as time has still progressed on, the situation with my daughter is still incredibly stressed. Not entirely sure what's happened, but the relationship is different than it was before. Now, that could just be the typical 14-year-old high school issues. Could be, I'm not sure. It could be because of this whole situation. I don't know. All I will tell you is that if I roll the clock back 3 weeks ago, the relationship with my 14-year-old daughter was different. It was better. It was stronger. We seemed to be more closer. And now there is a rift there. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like really what is important. And getting back, and the last thing I want to get in on this is that pivot. Like I said, 6 years ago, I had a completely different mindset on this. I thought about this completely differently, and my fight would have been different. Now, 8 years, almost 9 years later, I'm looking at things a little differently. I got a few more years left under the family court umbrella, and I'm looking at how do I keep this as stable as possible without adding more chaos into it. Now, let me add another caveat into this that I don't want to get lost, because see, I don't want you to look at this and say, 8-year Duane is where 1-year Duane should have been, okay? Because I fought a lot of those things early on, I've been able to establish some basic ground rules and boundaries of what she can get away with. I'm not saying be a pushover at day one. You're going to have to fight the fight that's important, and you're going to have to go through that, because that is how you can establish what they can get away with. Again, though, you have to be incredibly careful what you fight, though, because if you fight something and you lose, and here's the thing, if you mash the button, you go to court and you lose, they will be emboldened and believe that family court and the judges are going to back them up every time. And I guarantee you that they will lord that over you and make your life a living hell because of it. You need to be damn sure that if you're going to fight something, that you're going to win. I would say you need to make sure that it's not even going to be a draw. You want a clear victory, to have a pain point and a pressure point that they see and feel, so they understand that if they do this again, or they go down that route again, what the consequences are. If you try something and it fails, and they then think that they have one up on you and can use that to punish you, I guarantee you they will do it. Choose very carefully. So thank you very much. I'm not going to say your name, but individual who left that comment, because it was a very good question. And to be perfectly honest, 6 years ago, if I would have watched that video, I probably would have left the same comment. So thank you for that. If you think somebody could benefit from this video, please share it. If you like it, please hit the like button, because that actually helps YouTube think that the channel and the video is doing well. And I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.